Between 10 and 12 people, depending on if they're singles or it's a families residing. So it'll be for women and children. And I'm very excited about this project. I've been committed since I joined, and I'm committed to the end to see this through. Since I started this project, my eyes have opened to a lot of realities that we face here as Muslims. I've been Muslim my entire life, but I wasn't quite aware of the severity of issues that we as an ummah face in the city of Indianapolis. We all know that homelessness is rampant in the city. We all know that poverty is rising every single day. But to the extent that it's affecting us as Muslims, I wasn't quite prepared. Currently, I probably get about 2 to 3 calls a week about different individuals needing immediate housing, or on the verge of homelessness, or displaced, or don't have anywhere to go. Some of them have mental health issues, but a lot of times it's women that have been very stable for the majority of their lives, are either leaving a marriage or they are divorced, they've been single, they may have lost their jobs. It doesn't matter, there's no rhyme or reason, and there's no specific formula for a person to be displaced. So, my understanding and what I know is that at any given moment, either one of our sisters, mothers, cousins, aunties, daughters could be one of these women that enter the house. It doesn't have a face, it doesn't have a color, it doesn't have a race, it doesn't have a nationality. We're all vulnerable in this climate, in this society today, to have to face this reality. And this home gives the opportunity for a lot of women to get on their feet. The basics of this home, it's not a shelter, it's not a temporary shelter, it's a transitional home. So the women will be able to work with the case manager to be provided all of the resources that they need. Job placement, educational training. They won't have to pay any rent while they live there, but they will be required to save 40% of their income. What this does is allows them to provide a safety net for them. So when they're able to leave the home, they're able to establish themselves as an independent person and be able to sustain their lifestyle. Because this is not a Band-Aid. We've been giving out Band-Aids for 20, 30 years. The Band-Aid box is empty. We need more permanent solutions, and inshallah, with your help and the help of everyone in this community, because this is a community project, it's not a masjid project, it's for everyone in the city. We'll be able to sustain this and make sure that women are able to sustain themselves in the future instead of having to purchase a hotel room for them for 5 days and then not knowing what they're going to do, or having to send them to a shelter where they're not able to pray, or God fear them living out on the street, finding an empty bus in a parking lot of the mosque and sleeping in it. These are realities that we face every single day. I've seen Muslims on the street, I've seen them in the buses, living in the buses in the masjid parking lot, living in the masjid. And it's time for us to make a change. So, inshallah, without further ado, that's all I have to say today. So thank you very much for all your time.
Alhamdulillah.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for that insight. What I wanted to share is that we need to realize that the accomplishment that this community has gathered together, all the masjids, the donors, and generous sponsors of the event that are parting a home for this cause is no small matter. There's a handful of them across, alhamdulillah, about 26 homes across the country, and so adding one to this is a unique feature of this community, and one that the community should be proud of. So now what I'd like to do is invite Dr. Susie Ismail, who's been gracious enough to join us. Dr. Susie Ismail is the founding director of Cornerstone, a nonprofit faith-based communication intervention organization with several locations around the world that focus on youth, family, marriage, identity, socio-emotional wellness, and relationship rebuilding. She is the author of many books, including Modern Muslim Marriage, 9 to 5, When Muslim Marriage Fails, and several other works. She specializes in educating and empowering women, youth, and vulnerable populations by presenting a range of workshops, lectures, programs, diversity seminars, and corporate trainings both nationally and internationally. Let's give her a warm welcome. Dr. Suki.
Alhamdulillah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونشكره ونستعينه ونستغفره ونتوب إليه ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد محمدا عبده ورسوله. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. السلام عليكم everyone.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So this is an incredible masjid, mashallah, for a beautiful community. And it's such an honor to be here on behalf of ICNA Relief to support a project that is very personally near to my heart. When we see communities that rise up with intentionality to take care of the women, then these are truly prophetic communities. The Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in his last khutbah, in the last words that he shared with the ummah, on Jabal Arafat before his passing, he gave taw'ila, he gave advice. And what was the advice that he gave us? He gave us advice to not hurt one another. He gave us advice to take care of one another. He gave us advice to ensure that we eradicate notions of superiority, notions of differences between those of different colors and different races. But he also advised us, be good to your women. Take care of your women. And it's not just take care of your wives, it's not just take care of your daughters, it's not just take care of your sisters, but take care of your women, the women of the ummah. Because every Muslim woman is your sister. Every Muslim woman is someone's daughter. Every Muslim woman could be someone's mother, someone's wife. And so it is incumbent upon us as an ummah to take care of our women, which is what this transitional home through ICNA Relief is doing. It is creating a safe space. It is creating a haven, a place where women who are struggling, whether it be in their marriages, whether it be in a loss of work, a loss of ability to sustain themselves, whatever their difficulty may be, they now know that there is a safe place that they can go. This is what taking care of our women looks like. When we look to the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and the Sahaba, we see the priority that was placed on taking care of women. The Sahaba would race to marry the widows and the divorcees in the community. Why? So that they could be the protectors. This is what it means when we say الرجال قوامون على النساء and we recite this verse from the Quran. It does not mean that the men are better than the women. It means that the men are the protectors, the providers, and the ones that who should lead in this initiative to protect and to provide for our women within our collective community. When Salama radiallahu anha went through the difficult trauma of losing her husband, who she loved, who she was so close to, in that difficulty, she consistently repeated a dua, Allahumma ajirni fi musibati wa akhlif li khayran min. Oh Allah, be beside me in my tragedy and grant me that which is better. Because her husband, her qawwam, her leader, her protector, her provider had passed. And she repeated this dua consistently. And she was approached by Abu Bakr after her iddah period had passed, and he proposed marriage to her, because this is how the Sahaba took care of the Ummah. And she refused, and she repeated the dua, Allahumma ajirni fi musibati wa khif li khayran min. And then, when Usman radiallahu anhu proposed marriage, she again refused. When Umar radiallahu anhu proposed marriage, she again refused. And the people around her kept listening to her dua and said, what could be better than Abu Bakr? What could be better than Umar? What could be better than Usman proposing marriage to you? And she continued to repeat this dua until the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam himself proposed marriage to Salama, and she accepted. Because she knew the protection, the provision that she wanted, and she knew that there would be nothing better than being one of the mothers of the believers, and that this was her jaza for her sabr, her reward for her patience. Oftentimes, when I visit communities and I talk about the topic of women, I talk about the importance of understanding the role of women in our societies, I will get people that will sometimes ask me and say, why? Why do you have to keep talking about women? Today, women are stronger than men in our communities. Today, women make more money than men. You know, it's because you keep talking about women that there's problems in marriages. And I've heard this so often, and it breaks my heart every time I hear it. Because when we look to the statistics in our communities today, in our Muslim American communities, we see that 1 in every 4 Muslim American women will be a victim of domestic violence or abuse. We see that within our Muslim American communities, every 15 seconds, 15 seconds, the length of this pause, the length of us being quiet and reflecting, every 15 seconds, a woman somewhere in the world will be raped, abused, or assaulted. We talk about women and the importance of uplifting women and protecting women because over 60 million women every year experience sexual abuse and violence. We talk about women because 66% of the world's wealth is actually garnered by women in production, in farming, in different areas, yet only 10% of the wealth of this world is owned by women. We talk about women because Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam knows us, knows our communities better than even we know them, because the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam guided us to protect our women. We see this in the Quran. We see in Surah Al-Mujadala, Allah Azza wa Jal, Allah in His infinite wisdom, in His grace, in His ultimate protection, speaks to a woman, responds to a response that the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam gave to a woman, Khawla bint al-Alaba, who was verbally accosted or abused by her husband Aus bin Samit. And she was verbally harmed by him when he argued with her and said to her that you are like the back of my mother, which was an insult at the time of the Jahiliyyah, which was horrendous, similar to some of the degrading insults that so many of our women today face when they are in verbally, emotionally, psychologically abusive relationships. And so Khawla was taken aback. And she was not pleased with her husband, and she told her husband, I will speak to the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam about what you have said. And she spoke to the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam about what was shared. And the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in trying to patch things up, recommended that she return to her husband and forgive him. But Khawla was a strong woman, an opinionated woman, a woman who knew her rights and understood that Allah Azza wa Jal commanded the protection of her and her sisters and all women of the Muslim Ummah. And so she continued with that mujadala, that discussion, that arguing, that responding to what had happened. And the verses of Surah Al-Mujadala were revealed, in which Allah Azza wa Jal responds to the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying that he has heard the cries of the woman who has come with her shakwa, with her complaint. And he has heard these cries, and it is incumbent upon the husband to give a fidya in order for him to accept his wife back. That there is a consequence for this verbal degradement. That it is not okay for a husband to put his wife down, even verbally, because this is not our deen. This is not what it means when we understand الرجال قوامون على النساء. And so this commandment is revealed in the Quran. And the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam speaks to Hawla and tells her that this has been revealed by Allah. And your husband, he must free slaves in order to take you back. And she says he has no slaves. And then he says that your husband must fast 60 days consecutively in order to repair the damage that was done. Because there must be a consequence for this behavior. And she says he is old and he cannot fast. He said that he should give in charity and feed 60 people that need feeding. And she said from where? He does not have the wealth to do that. And the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave her some wealth and he said you can start with this and feed 30. And Khawla pulled out some wealth and she said, and I will complete it, for I forgive my husband. Because this was not about a woman who wanted to drag her husband through the mud. This was not about a woman who just wanted to make problems because she was feeling sad. This was about a woman who understands what it means to be protected by her spouse, to have the support of her community, to go to the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam and to know that the haqq will be delivered. And that she is not meant to be degraded. She is not meant to be abused. She is not meant to be put down. I want you to think of your own daughters. I want you to think of your sisters. Think of your mothers. Think of your friends. Think of your neighbors. Now think of the one who looks broken. The one who maybe doesn't come to the masjid anymore. The one who hides her face, the one who shows that she's not okay. Think about her home. What could be happening? Is it a safe place for her? Is it a safe place for her children? Is it a place in which she feels uplifted as a spouse, or a place in which she is denigrated, degraded, and put down? Allah Azza wa Jal has chosen for each and every one of you to be here today. And just as in the battle of Badr, when 1,000 of Quraysh stood before 313 of the Muslims, just as Allah Azza wa Jal allowed that small number of Muslims to be victorious on that day, inshallah in this room today, Allah Azza wa Jal will allow all of us to be victorious in this community against the evil that is domestic violence, domestic abuse, mistreatment of our women. And it doesn't matter how many people are here today, because each of you knows someone who knows someone. Each of you can take this message and spread it. Each of you can tout the importance of projects like this one that ICNA Relief has built from the ground up. Each of you can be part of this journey. And this is why Allah chose for you to be here today. Because it's not meant to be ignored. It's not meant for us to think, well, it's not our problem. This doesn't happen in Muslim communities. Because yes it does. Unfortunately it does. And sometimes those who are wounded, those who are scarred, are sitting beside us in this masjid. Sometimes they are the ones that smile, but their hearts are broken. Sometimes they are the ones that are so afraid to complain. Why? Because where would they go? Who would spend on them? Who would take care of their children? For the average woman who faces abuse, it takes 7 times. 7 times for her to successfully leave her abuser. Meaning so many times in broken homes, we will see women who say, I'm afraid, he's harmed me. But then that same person will apologize, will say, don't break up this family. That same person will say, this is on you. If you divorce, your kids will hate you. and she goes back. And she is harmed again because it's a cycle that doesn't break every time the woman goes back. And maybe she leaves again, but where does she go? To a hotel until her money runs out, to somewhere that doesn't feel safe, to a shelter in which she can't practice her deen. Where does she go? She goes back to her home, despite the abuse, despite the harm, despite feeling like no one has her back. 7 times we see the norm. And so many times in that going back, it ends with the woman being removed from the home in a casket. It ends with the woman losing her life. And yes, this is in our communities, but we don't talk about it. We don't share these things because we think satr, the covering, means we don't talk about problems in someone's home. But the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam advised the Sahaba that when they see oppression, they cannot remain silent, and that they must help both the oppressed and the oppressor. And when the Sahaba asked him, and they said, we know how to help the oppressed, we will try to remove them from the situation of oppression, but how do we help the oppressor?
Keep them from oppressing.
And the response was, by stopping the hand of the oppressor. Brothers and sisters, this transitional home is one way of putting a stop to that oppression. It's one way of opening an avenue so that when our sisters, our daughters, our mothers, our wives, our community members, our women find themselves in what feels like an impossible position, here in Indiana, they know that it's not impossible. They know that by the grace of Allah, by the hard work of ICNA Relief, and by the initiative that you are taking today to support this project, that there is a way out, that there is a safe place, and that Allah Azza wa Jal will respond to the one who turns towards Him and asks for relief. So I pray that Allah Azza wa Jal protects all of our women, protects our marriages, our homes, protects our communities. I pray that Allah Azza wa Jal places a great deal of barakah in the work of ICNA Relief and allows this transitional home to be a beacon of light and a safe space for all of our sisters who need it. Jazakumullahu khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.